From recruiting and consulting firm Riderflex, I'm your host, Steve Urban, and here is your Riderflex Podcast episode of the day. All right, we'll get rolling. You ready to go?
Ready to go. Let's do it.
All right. Katherine Wells on the Riderflex Podcast. How you doing, Katherine?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. You know, it's been a crappy ass year, but the holidays are here and I'm trying to feel optimistic. I'm trying to stay optimistic.
Yeah, I think there's some things to be optimistic about. We're seeing hope in the vaccine. We're seeing some opportunities, some things that could be opening up. And my hope really is that businesses that have made it this far keep going however they can, whatever we can do to support businesses, because if they can just get through this last bit, I think they'll be all right.
I agree. Yeah. Small business owners, especially in certain sectors, oh my gosh, they've really been through some tough times, and I feel bad for all of them. And I'm wishing everybody the best. Yeah. I would just encourage everybody to just keep pushing forward. Just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep hustling.
Yeah, dig deep, go as much as you can. I live downtown Denver, and so I see the boarded up shops. I see the people going out of business, and it's so sad. They've been in business for years, and they just can't quite get through. So I'm pushing for them. I'm pulling for them. I'm doing all the things for them. Anything.
Me too.
Yeah,
me too. We're recording this, by the way, on December 8th, 2020, for the listeners, in case you're listening to this a year from now. We're still dealing with COVID right now, and that's what we're talking about, and how small business has been affected. Before we get into your business, though, why don't you tell us a little bit about Katherine personally? Give us some family personal history. Go ahead.
Here we go. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Give it to us.
I'm a Colorado native. I'm one of the few, and I love it. My parents came here from California by way of New York, and they moved to Colorado Springs. My dad worked for a government contractor. It was at the time called Command Sciences. It's now ITT and pretty well known. But at the time, it was a small company called Command Sciences. And who would have thought he would be working on a Navy project in the middle of landlocked Colorado Springs, Colorado? Very interesting.
Wow.
I was the only child born here, so I'm the only one that can claim native status. And I grew up there, and I moved to LA because everybody has to get out of where they were born and raised.
Okay.
And I said, oh my gosh, I never want to see snow for the rest of my life. So I moved to LA.
You moved to LA after college or before?
After college. Yeah. Followed a boy. Yeah. Typical story. Followed a boy. We lived there for 5 years. It didn't suit me. I'm a mountain girl. I'm a Colorado girl at heart. Came back, really missed the change of seasons. And came back here, and things were picking up in the economy at the time. It was early 90s, and things were starting to pick up in the economy here. And I started with a company, a very small company in Colorado Springs, a startup. Okay. And I fell in love with startups. Absolutely fell in love with the idea of having multiple hats and doing lots of things and making an impact. And people used to say, do you want to be a small fish in a big pond, or do you want to be a big fish in a small pond? So I think I've sort of found, at least early in my career, I liked being a big fish in a small pond. My brothers would say I'm bossy. That's what they would say. Yes.
So you had a couple of brothers.
I have 3 older brothers. I'm the youngest. And yes, I was well protected by them. I was also abused by them, not literally. And I say that lightly because I don't want people to think I was actually abused. It's a very serious thing. They used to pull my hair, pick me up by my piggy tails, tell me I had to leave when their friends came over, things like that.
Did you know that you wanted to be a marketing executive? I mean, you majored, I think you got your first bachelor's in business and marketing, right? So did you know you wanted to be a marketing executive?
So the dirty little secret is, for me in college, I really was getting the easiest degree I could.
Okay.
I just wanted to get through college. I had a love for learning, but I have an innate love for learning. So I learn whether I'm going to school and it's structured or not.
I see.
So for me, it was really just a degree. I was also kind of reeling from early family life. We had my oldest brother lives with schizophrenia, and growing up with that in the 70s was really hard because
Mm,
people didn't understand mental illness. We had some people who ostracized our family.
mm,
I lost some friends. People looked at us weird. And so I've really always been a big proponent of dealing with mental illness head on. And my brother is one of the most amazing people I know on this planet. He's
mm,
very
mm,
functional. He's worked really, really hard. My parents did an amazing job
mm,
supporting him through that. So as I went to college, I was kind of getting out of that and not really knowing what had happened, and just sort of going through life and trying to get my degree and get my life on the road. That's really all I could see. Very tunnel vision. Get my life on the road.
When you came back to Colorado, then you worked for a few different companies in a marketing role, right?
I did.
As you were doing that and you were moving through your career, we don't have to go over each one of them, but were you always thinking, I want to start my own business? I want to be an entrepreneur. Was that in the background? How was that affecting you?
I think I did it by being sort of second in command at most companies. So
Okay.
I don't know that I had the innate drive at that time to start my own business,
Okay.
but I did have a desire to create. I'm a
Okay.
creator. I love to create. So my one of my superpowers, one of probably three or four of my superpowers, is to build and grow something. And that's
Gotcha.
where I fell in love with marketing,
Okay.
because I can come in and build a marketing structure, infrastructure, a team, content, and make it sing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where I excel, is building and growing. And so I applied that in the marketing area. I'm also a complete gadget girl. I love gadgets. I'm the
Okay.
first early adopter of just about anything and everything, and always have been. I had an Apple Commodore 64 when I was in 10th grade. And I used to write code at, believe it or not, at Kmart. They had Commodore 64s for sale on the counter back where they had the electronics section. And you could, of course, they were locked down, but you could actually write programs on the Commodore 64 standing there in the middle of Kmart, which
I think I
Kmart.
kind of remember that. I think I
Yeah.
kind of remember that.
Yeah, so I would go and I would write little programs and let it sort of run until somebody else came along and wrote a different one.
I think I think I kind of remember that back in the day, because we're very similar age. We graduated college right around the same time. So yeah, I think I remember that. Okay, very, very cool. All right, so kind of gadgety, creative, marketing degree. You're moving along. You're living in Colorado. Did you marry the boy from California? Did you have a family? What's the personal story?
I did briefly.
Okay.
That didn't last.
Okay.
And then I got married to someone that I just adored, and we had a wonderful relationship for 8 years. We had a
Awesome.
baby together.
Oh, okay.
And
So you have one child,
I have one child.
grown.
Yeah, now 24. Yeah, yeah.
Very good. 24, that's the age where they actually start coming back around and asking for advice finally, right? Is that
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. So my child is transgender.
okay? Okay.
So after that marriage, I married a man who has 3 children,
Okay.
and one
Whoa,
of
oh,
his,
you signed up to be a stepmom then.
yes, yes, and one of his is also transgender. So we have,
I see.
of the 4 children, and I say this with so much love and affection because I love them all so much. And I'll tell you a quick story in just a moment. We have the
Okay.
full rainbow family. So out of
Okay.
4 kids, we have 2 transgenders, both going opposite directions. We have 1 lesbian and 1 straight as a board who's like, how'd I get in this family? And they all love each other, and it's beautiful. And I couldn't have picked a better family.
I bet that makes for some interesting Thanksgiving dinner conversations and stuff like that, huh?
It's really just life. It's like I
That's
had to
great.
go. It really, when my son came out, it shattered my world, and
Oh,
I
really?
will not say it was easy. It shattered my world in the best possible way because
Mm-hmm.
it shattered all these beliefs that I had from the media
Mm.
and from social constructs that I had to really dig deep and go, this is not this is not what life is about. And
Mm-hmm.
I love my child no matter what. And as a mom, you have to grieve the loss of the child you gave birth to. So I gave birth to a little
Interesting.
girl, and I had
Interesting.
all these ideas for my little girl growing up, who was really a mini me. And everybody said, "Oh, that's a mini Kathy. That's a mini Kathy." And then I had to grieve that loss while I was welcoming in my son. And now
Mm.
I'm just so grateful that I had that experience because
Mm.
I have no judgments. I have nothing but love and acceptance for anyone and everyone. And the one piece of advice I got that really, I was just at a place where I was ready to hear it, I think,
Okay.
was actually from someone who came to a PFLAG meeting because that's what I was doing to try to understand and grapple with what does this mean? How do I deal with this? How do I
Mm-hmm.
help my
Mm-hmm.
son and support him? And it was a 21-year-old who didn't identify as male or female. And they came in and they said, we as the adults, we said, what advice would you like to give us? And they said, I really can't wait for this just not to be a topic of conversation anymore. That's what I
Mm.
really want.
Mm.
I just went, yeah, who wants someone talking about them all the time? If someone
Yeah.
was
Right.
talking about me like, oh, she's a girl, she's such a girl, can you believe that? Like, we don't do that. So,
Interesting. Interesting. I hadn't thought about it like that. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
great point. Great point.
yeah.
So great point. So four children altogether, three stepchildren, one of your own. Okay.
Mhm.
All
Yes,
grown. All grown.
all grown. The youngest one is just about to turn 21.
Okay.
Three of them are out of the house. The last
Oh,
one is still with us for a little bit.
I
So
still
that's
got one in the house. Okay.
yeah.
It's by the way, I think it's really fun when you become empty nesters altogether because
I
it's
can't wait.
yeah. It's seriously. I was affected by it emotionally at first. I went through, I don't know, 6 months or whatever. It was kind of weird and
Yeah,
we were trying to kind of find ourselves a little bit. My wife and I trying to kind of like, okay, what do we do now? Kind of a thing. Right.
yeah.
But after a while you get into a really nice empty nester groove where you're focused on yourselves as a couple rather than, your whole life being about the kids. And, I love it.
Yeah, Steve, this is really interesting because my husband and I were just saying to each other, how cool is it that we still really, really like each other?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
love
That's
each
key.
other,
Yeah.
but we
That's
still
key.
really like each other and enjoy time together. And, when you're raising kids, there's plenty of times when that is not the case.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And besides the time, the emotional time with your spouse, the fact that you're spending money on you guys and not spending a lot of money on the kids, that's also really cool.
It's true. It's true. A little bit of freedom. Yeah.
Okay, so you're going through your career, you're raising family. Um, Tell me what happened. Walk us into Serenity app, by the way, and for the listeners right now, and we'll have Catherine give a nice overview, but serenityapp.com. Walk us into kind of how it happened. Go for it.
So it kind of happened before it happened.
Okay.
And by that, I mean, I'm the man that I am married to right now, who's a wonderful, amazing man, is a serial entrepreneur.
Okay.
So he has had, at that time, he had had 7 companies that he had started and 3 exits. And
Wow.
I had no idea what it meant to be with a true entrepreneur. I
Mm.
was like, oh, really? That's interesting. Well, that's really cool. Not thinking anything of it. Yeah,
Uh,
I about a year into our relationship, well, I guess 2 years because we were getting married at the time. I said, I need to start a blog called The Entrepreneur's Wife because this is like foreign lands. This is
right.
alien. That this is like someone who will risk everything to build a business and do a startup. And I'm
Hmm.
not that person. And
Hmm.
I am now, but still not. I'm still very judicious
Right.
about how I do things. Whereas he would, cash out our 401k in a heartbeat. And that's just the difference in our style.
Right.
So it kind of started planting the seed that I could do something
I see.
and that I had someone with me that I could learn from, that could be my mentor. So
Mm,
shortly after we got married, my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And
mm,
in that process, we began the senior care journey. And we being our whole family. And so I talk about that in the sense that it was all of my brothers, it was me, it was my dad, and it was my mom who's affected. And so we start to talk as a family about what do we do. Mom didn't want to face the fact that she had Alzheimer's. We had to take her keys away. It was the worst day of, I think, my brother's life.
mm,
Um,
mm,
and my dad fortunately had done all the prep work and prepared everything was pre-planned, so their money, everything was pre-planned. I was power of attorney along with one of my brothers.
okay.
And so as she got worse and we had to move her into senior care, I'm looking around going, this is really, really hard on family, because we move someone into memory care thinking that everything is going to be handled, but it's
Mm,
not. It's
mm,
really the myth about senior living is that it's really like moving someone into an apartment and there's 24/7 help there in case something happens. And there's someone who will give them meds and make sure they get fed and have activities at their disposal. But they don't do the medical side. So if there's diabetes, if there's physical therapy needs, you have to bring in outside providers. Home health is
gotcha.
the name of it. And
Right.
you bring these people in, and they're another layer on top. And then you have a rounding doctor. So you have a doctor who comes in and rounds, so you don't have to take mom out because it's really hard on them to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and eventually you might have hospice come in. So you have all these different people coming in, providing care. And as the family member, you're the one left putting the pieces together because they don't talk to each other and they hardly talk to you.
Gotcha.
So that's when Serenity was born. And I'll tell you, the very moment I said, forget it, I'm done. This is the straw that's breaking the camel's back.
Okay.
My mom always had really short hair in life, and uh, I called to try to get her hair cut, and I couldn't get an appointment. They have an on-site salon. And as silly as this sounds, we finally got her an appointment. I show up on the weekend because, of course, I have kids at home. I have a demanding job. I can't be there during the week. So I show
Mm-hmm.
up on Saturday, her hair isn't cut. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, what happened? Why didn't someone at least call and tell me? And what had happened is they took her up to the salon multiple times, but she has Alzheimer's. They took her during sundowning time and she was combative. So she was like
Okay.
batting them away. And it's just part of the disease. But no one ever called to say, Kath, we can't get your mom in. And her hair was the one thing that made her feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said, this is crazy. Why, as a family member, can't I message somebody? Why can't I schedule her hair appointment online? Why do I have to call Tuesday or Thursday between 9 and 3
Right.
p.m.? And, like it's just crazy. So that's when I said, this is nuts. I want to know what's going on with my mom. And I just need little updates. I'm not a high
Yeah.
maintenance family
Right.
member.
Yeah. Just
Want
updates.
the
Yeah.
updates. That's
Yep.
all. So I created Serenity, and Serenity is a HIPAA compliant messaging app.
Okay.
And for those of you in the tech world, the senior care world is unfamiliar for the most part with Slack and the concept of Slack.
Yep.
Serenity is very similar to Slack. It's written specifically for the domain of senior care, which is highly regulated, very different than the business world.
Okay.
Slack is not applicable in that world, but the concepts of bringing everyone together from disparate teams to communicate and collaborate are.
I see.
And so that's what we do at Serenity.
Now you're not a coder. You're not a software developer. So how you had this idea? Talk to me. How did you put all that together? Did you team up with somebody? Did you spend some money on outside developers? How'd you get that built?
Excellent question. I'm lucky enough to be married to a serial entrepreneur who is also an engineer, a very
Oh,
talented engineer. He
okay.
wrote the code for his first three companies.
I
He's
got
like
you.
that guy from Hewlett Packard who sat in the garage or in the basement or whatever and wrote the code. So
Very nice. Well, handy to be married to a software engineer.
yeah, it doesn't hurt at all. So when I first came home with this idea after seeing my mom, and we also had to move my dad into assisted living.
At the
So
same,
they were,
or shortly after, like months after, 6 months after,
yeah,
what was the timeline there?
yeah, it was about a year after, but he tried really hard to live on his own and he just couldn't. And it was after 4 ER visits that I said to him, I can't do this. I
Yeah,
can't keep driving down to Colorado Springs
yeah,
every
yeah.
time I get an emergency call.
Was he still married to when your mom went in? Were they still married?
Yeah,
Oh, so they
they've
had.
been,
I see. They had been married for
yeah,
how long? How long?
oh, 60 years when they passed. So they both passed last year.
I see.
My mom was just shy of turning 80, like by days, I think, maybe a month, maybe 2 weeks. And then my dad died 6 months to the day after, and he had
Wow.
just turned 80. So they're both 80 and they were married for 60 years.
Both
And
80, married for 60 years, both died in the same year and went into facilities within 12 months of each other. Wow.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
and it's really common. And here's what happens. And I just spoke with a friend a couple days ago about this, who's on the early journey.
Okay.
Mom got really sick and had to get moved into senior care. And suddenly they're realizing that dad's not doing well either. This happens all the
All the
time.
time.
You
Yeah.
don't see it when mom's home because mom protects him, mom takes care
Gotcha.
of everything, right? Mom's not there, there's no layer. Now you're starting to see that dad actually might have dementia or Parkinson's or some other
Mhm.
physical issues.
Is it
Yeah,
also because once they lose their partner, the drive to want to kind of stay healthy and move forward starts to dwindle because now they're by themselves? Is that part of it too?
I think there's definitely some of that. Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely some of that.
Oh,
My
that.
dad started to lean on me a lot after
Mm,
we moved mom into senior living
mm.
because he had always had her.
Oh,
And
yeah, I can't even imagine. So, and plus he's super old school, right? So he was born, what year was he born? Probably in the 35 or something like that.
1939, and
30,
yes,
yeah, 39. So he was one of those guys where that was a traditional, super old school home where, I mean, she probably did everything, right? Around the
the
house.
cleaning, the shopping, the laundry, yeah, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when she couldn't do that anymore, he probably was just like, what the hell? Like, I don't know if I could. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I
Okay.
think the day it hit home for him is the day that she cooked a waffle and then put it in the blender.
And that's when you guys, I'm sure you guys were having conversations. He was probably calling the kids saying, hey, we got
Yeah,
problems. Yeah,
something's
that's
not
super
right.
tough. Ah,
Yeah.
okay. So I didn't mean to get off track there. You come home with this idea, your husband helps you formulate it a little bit, and then he does the coding.
Well,
Um,
so what he did is he said, all right, it sounds interesting, but let's build a prototype and see, go out
yeah.
and try to sell the prototype because
Yep.
this is lean startup, right? So
Yep.
this is
Yep.
what you do. So he built a prototype. I went out and sold it. And he was like, what? You sold it? Really? Okay. There's something here. Okay, now let's take the next step. And so we really followed the lean startup process pretty closely.
Okay.
Um, and we, slow played it, got some customers, got our learnings, got another customer, got some learnings, continued to build the software. And then in April of this year, we raised our first round, a
All
small
right.
seed round from angel investors, people in the industry, and a micro VC in the Denver area, Cocopelli. Huge shout out to the Cocopelli guys. They
Very
are
nice.
unbelievable if you're looking to raise from micro VCs. I encourage you to share your deck with them. They're just incredible. They've been such a good support to us. And we're raising our
Awesome.
second round right now, and they've been hugely helpful.
Congratulations. And now, how long have you been in business for? What? Almost 3 years?
Actually, closer to like a year and a half, but
Okay.
the idea started much, much earlier. So
So from your first quote sell, when you talk to the first, and by the way, when you say a sell, you're selling it to a facility. You're selling who's your target customer? Go ahead.
yeah, senior care providers.
Oh,
So there's a
okay.
lot in that. our beachhead segments, our fast moving waters, are senior living communities that
Okay.
have assisted living and memory care specifically.
I see.
Independent living is less interesting right now, only because our sweet spot is when you can't trust mom or dad's self-report anymore.
Okay.
So, for example, I call my dad in assisted living, "How you doing, Dad?" And he didn't have dementia. "How you doing, Dad? I was
Fine.
awesome,
He's like,
Dad."
I'm doing, yeah.
Oh, well, actually, what I would get is, "They haven't fed me in days. I
Oh, I
haven't
see.
been showered. Nobody's been to visit me in months." And it's all lies, and he doesn't intend to lie,
Yeah.
but he's
Gotcha.
feeling sad and lonely,
Yep.
um, and that's his truth. But when you can't rely on that, now imagine my brother in Wisconsin calling and getting that report. He goes ballistic. He's on
Mm-hmm.
the phone with me. "What's going on down there, Kathy? He calls the facility, "What's going on?" And this happens every day, all day in senior living. So,
Mm-hmm. So that,
um,
yeah.
yeah, so that's what we solve, is having access to short little updates.
And when that's you explained your target customer. So um do they pay you for what's the business model? Walk me through the business model. Go ahead.
Perfect. So the senior living community buys the software and they deploy it to the family members. So they use it for internal staff communication.
I
And they
see.
also, when somebody moves in, they say, "Here's a tool that we use. If you'd like to communicate with us electronically, like this is like a text messaging where you can
Mm,
access our care team. You'll
mm.
get photos of your mom, you'll get videos, you'll get updates. You can ask us questions. It's a two-way communication. And we will also have broadcast channels where we'll share with you our COVID updates,
Mm-hmm.
any activities that are coming up, new announcements about the community. So it's a great marketing tool for the communities.
Are
And
they
that's
paying you? Are they paying you per user, or how does that work? Okay.
they pay us per resident.
Per resident. Per resident that signs up, or per resident?
Per resident that signs up.
I
So,
see.
yep. So if they have, let's say 100 beds is what they call them in senior living. They have
Mm-hmm.
100 beds,
Mm-hmm.
100 available beds,
Okay.
and 80 of them want Serenity. Then they're just paying us for 80 of those.
A month to month, they sign up for a full year.
Yeah, they could sign up for a full year. There's discounts for that. So,
I
and we
see.
definitely work out enterprise deals,
Okay.
because if you have 2,500 beds, and we have clients like that, um, we want to make it easy for you to deploy, because the real bottom line here is it's all about the older adult and their well-being. It is 100% about that. And my hypothesis is that when you bring the family in and you create a cohesive team working
Mm,
around that older adult,
mm.
you improve their well-being, you give family peace of mind, reduced anxiety, you improve operational efficiency inside your organization, and you increase the job satisfaction for your care staff. And that's a huge problem in senior living and senior care all around. They cannot keep staff right now. There's not enough caregivers.
Really?
Yeah.
I see. I see. So you're making it easier on everybody and improving the quality of their life overall
Yeah.
for a small software fee that is month to month, and they can try it out, and they don't have to sign up for 2 years or anything crazy. They can try it and see how it goes.
Absolutely. And we have 100% pilot to conversion rate, because once you pilot it,
Ah,
it's a no-brainer. It really is. It's really the question of, they're already doing this, right? So this, like, imagine the inner operations of a senior living. If a family member is calling, they're going to call, they're going to leave voicemail, they might email if they want information.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So you're already, as a staff member, doing this. We're just making it 10x easier and
Yeah.
faster. And everybody is happy and everybody's on the same page and has the same information at the same time.
So what challenges are you having? Are you having some scaling problems right now to where you can't, what are your hurdles?
The biggest hurdle is actually that the systems we have in senior care were designed many, many, many years ago.
I see.
And they are legacy, rigid systems. And it's not the people. This is not a people problem. But as you know, in systems thinking, every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets.
Yeah.
And the results we're getting today are not the results I want when I'm aging. I want communication and collaboration. And that is something that doesn't happen today in a system. Interestingly, what does happen, Steve, is the people, because the people are so incredible, they just work around the system. So
I see.
yeah, we often hear stories of caregivers, and I had this experience as well. Caregivers who love the family so much and they want the family involved because they know the family wants these updates, they'll just text message.
Yeah.
That's not HIPAA compliant. It means that there's no oversight into what they're saying. The community itself has no idea what the temperament of the family is because they're having a one-on-one conversation with the caregiver.
Yeah.
So it's really, that puts them at risk, and we're eliminating that risk.
Is there super secret patented formulas in this this technology that protects you from competitors? I mean, I'm sure no matter what you do, I'm sure other companies can launch an app as well. So there's going to be competition. Or talk to me about that. How do you deal with that aspect of it?
I used to get really angsty about competition.
Yeah.
And the more I have been in the entrepreneurial world, the more I have learned from very seasoned entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, competition is a good thing. It means there's a market.
Right.
If no one else is doing it,
Right.
there's a reason no one else is doing it.
Yeah, that's true.
Our competitors are actually very new, like us. This
Okay.
is not, there are several who are coming into this space. The difference for Serenity is that we are building a network. We're not just building an app. We're building a network. And the vision that I have is that in the future, when you begin a senior care journey or anywhere along the senior care journey, all the way to hospice and 13 months after, where hospice provides bereavement care, anyone you meet along the way, you say, give me your Serenity ID. Let me add you to this group. Let me share this educational article with you. Let me connect you with that hospice provider. Let me refer you to this senior living. Let me add you to my dad's channel because you're his new doctor and I want you to see. So we're building a network, and market network companies, and this is not marketplace. This is building a market network, which eventually becomes a marketplace if you read the nfx.com articles, which I highly recommend. Okay. Market network companies have the highest defensibility and have driven 70% of the revenue in technology in the last 5 years.
Interesting. Okay, very good. Is your husband helping you with this full time now, or is he doing another startup on the side?
He is now. He was at a startup in Boulder for a while that was data security and privacy. So he's, perfectly ideal for this, and he loves what he's doing, and he loves not being the CEO for once in his life.
So he's perfectly happy letting you be he's like, yes, please, you be the face of the company. I'm just behind the scenes over here, making sure the website or the software or whatever, the app works.
Absolutely. You got it.
And how is it working with your husband on a daily basis? What happens is that, I mean, I'm sure there are times when you're like, okay, you're getting on my nerves today.
I will say that I was the person, and anyone who knows me knows this, I was that person who said, I would never work with my husband. We would end up divorced. Absolutely not. We will not do it. All the way up until the day he left his job and came full-time to Serenity, I was saying that. And we finally had to sit down and just really map out, okay, when we have conflict, what are the triggers for the conflict? It's that we're getting into each other's business. Okay, how are we going to handle that? What are we going to do? If for some awful reason this doesn't work and we just can't work together, who is going to lead the company and who's going to leave? So we had all of that kind of worked out before.
Very good.
What's happened though is none of that has come to fruition. We have just fallen into this beautiful pattern. We are so complementary skill-wise.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's been, I think, one of the most amazing things. So again, I go back to, when I was talking about my kids, and it shattered my world when they transitioned or came out in the
Yes.
best possible way. This shattered some of my constructs of no, I inflexible thinking of no, I can't work with my husband,
Hmm.
and really made me open up and say, you can work with anybody, and you can make changes if it doesn't work.
The big thing you just mentioned there is make sure your co-founder complements your skill sets, right? I mean, if you really, that's so critical so that you can have some clarity around what they own versus what you own, and, plus what you enjoy doing and what they enjoy doing.
Yeah.
That really goes a long way. Okay, very good. So you're moving along. You said you had some angel money, but now you're raising it. What are you calling this round that you're raising right now? Everybody's got the fancy terms for their rounds. What are you calling this?
Oh, Steve, this is such a good question because even the people we're raising from have different definitions.
Right, I know.
So,
I've gotten to the point where I've had so many entrepreneurs on the podcast to where it's almost just funny. I'm like, okay, bottom line is you're raising more cash. It really doesn't matter what you're calling it.
exactly. We don't look at it any other way because, everyone has a different definition. Our
I
first
know.
round is clearly an
Okay.
angel round with micro VC. And by the way, we also just got a grant from the Office of Economic Development.
Oh,
So
cool.
we did invest cash into the company, working capital. So
Wow.
very, very excited about that.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. To me, that's also validation
Yep.
that
Yep.
it's not just us sitting here going, "This is a good idea." It's other people
No,
saying,
no doubt. I mean, that goes in your deck to when you're raising cash. You're like, look, hey, we just got this grant, and now the investors are even attracted even more. Yeah, very good. Good for you.
absolutely.
Okay.
So this round, most people would call it a pre-seed round.
Okay.
We're
Okay.
between pre-seed and seed. We're kind of a tweener.
Okay.
And yeah, so if there's anyone listening to this that is interested in making an impact in the way we all age, because we are all aging, and you
Mm-hmm.
want it to look different than it's looking for your parents, come talk to us.
And how should they get a hold of you? What do you just go to the website, or what do you prefer?
I'll give you my email address right here. It's Katherine, KATHERINE at serenityengage.com. That's the name of the product, serenityengage.com.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Now, for anybody that invests, Riderflex gets 10% since you were on the podcast. No, I'm just playing. I'm just joking around. I think what you're doing is really cool. And you've moved pretty quickly here.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I mean, you have revenue coming in, you have proof of concept, you've got the early angel money, you're already raising some more money. I mean, you're moving right along. Congratulations on the speed you're moving.
Thank you. Thank you. And I encourage people to go look at something called the Ladder of Proof. It's also done by, and you can just Google that, Ladder of Proof. It's also
Mhm.
done by nfx.com. They
Okay.
write some amazing content for startups and entrepreneurs.
Do you
And Ladder of Proof is really like, how do you consistently de-risk the business?
ooh,
And when I look at that, we're halfway up the ladder. And that's really good for as far as early stage as we are.
if you could call the young lady when she was 21 years old, coming out of Fort Lewis College, 1988. I love that you put your year on there. I love that. Uh, if you could call her and tell her anything, knowing what you know now at this stage in your life, what would you tell her?
Breathe, breathe, just breathe. It's going to be okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very relaxed a little bit. We pretty wound up back then.
I think I was searching, like many 21-year-olds are. I was searching for who am I? What am I supposed to do? I don't really know, what this world is. We're all adulting. That's the funny thing to say today is hashtag adulting.
Uh,
We were all doing the same thing. We just didn't know it. And we called it something different, which was partying or,
right. Right. I've never met anybody that grew up in Colorado, moved to a different state, and didn't come back at some point. It's like almost every single person I've talked to, they go try to live somewhere else, and they're like, you know what? Actually, Colorado's pretty damn good.
And the thing for me was the sun.
Yeah.
We have more sunny days than California does.
Right.
California's warmer, for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
but I did not enjoy the dark. And when I lived there, it was the late 80s, so it was really high pollution time.
Uh,
And so it was very gray a lot of the time. They've cleaned so much of that up.
hmm Okay. Last minute or last second advice for entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs listening. Anything you want to tell them here as we get ready
Yes.
to exit? Anything you want to say? Go for it.
Two key things. One, find a kick-ass mentor, someone who is going to tell you the things that are hard to hear, and you're going to be able to take it from them and listen. And the second thing is take in all of the conflicting, varying advice that you're going to get from everybody and decide for yourself, because everybody's advice is different and based on their experience. And so often it's just conflicting with each other and you don't know what to believe. Decide for yourself, in your gut.
It's so true. That's really, by the way, that is great advice. It's great to listen. And by the way, when you're in a startup situation, everybody's going to have advice for you. All your friends, everybody's going to, your family members say, well, you should do this. Oh, you should do this. You should try this. You should try that. Those are all great conversations. And yeah, it's good to listen to them. The reality is, out of 100 pieces of advice you're going to get like that, 5 or 6 of those are going to be really good that you might implement. But it is good to listen because you got to filter through them, like you said, and then trust your gut. It's good
Yep.
advice, Katherine. Very, very good advice. Thank you so much for being on the Riderflex podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. I enjoyed it.
If you think today's tip or guest interview can help someone please share this with them. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. The Riderflex podcast features entrepreneurs, business executives, and the stories behind how they got there, as well as daily tips on career advice and job interviewing. You can visit riderflex.com to learn more about us and get information and pricing on the recruiting and consulting services we provide. Thanks so much for listening and have a great day.